ערב שבת קודש, פרשת ויקרא, שבת הגדול, תשפ"ה. השיעור הוא לעילוי נשמתה הטהורה של מרת לאה בת וירג'ני מהדה עליה השלום. רוח השם תניחנה בגן עדן, אמן. Usually Shabbat Hagadol falls when we read Parashat Tzav. But since next Shabbat is Erev Pesach, so therefore Shabbat Hagadol is this Shabbat, Parashat Vayikra. We will speak today about Shabbat Hagadol, why it's called Shabbat Hagadol. In Chazal, we see that Am Yisrael went out from Egypt. The day of the week was Thursday. Borei Olam said to Moshe, on Yud Nisan, every Jew should take a sheep, ויקחו להם איש בעשור לחודש הראשון, ויקחו להם איש, שא לבית אבות, שא לבית. Everyone will take a sheep. This was on Yud Nisan, on the 10th of Nisan. 10th of Nisan, at that time in Egypt, was on Shabbat. So on Shabbat, Yud Nisan, every Jew took a sheep, and in order to shecht the sheep. The purpose of shechting the sheep was to cleanse Am Yisrael from Avodah Zarah. When Am Yisrael stayed in Egypt, they followed the Egyptians and they worshipped to the image of the sheep as the Egyptians. The image of the sheep was the Avodah Zarah of the Egyptians. Borei Olam, he told them to shecht the sheep, to sacrifice the sheep, and to change it into a mitzvah. Even though we have a rule, ein kategor na'asa sanegor, the prosecutor cannot become the defense, and the sheep was a prosecutor because it reminded Avodah Zarah that Am Yisrael worked in Egypt. How come Borei Olam says, go and make it a korban? One of the answers that the Mefarshim are giving to it is that, on the contrary, the best thing to do teshuvah is to use the same thing that you used it to sin. The same thing will become now a mitzvah. Borei Olam said to Am Yisrael to take the sheep, and every person brought the sheep home and tied it to his bed. Why to tie it to the bed? The answer is, according to the Mefarshim, that Am Yisrael worshipped the image of the sheep, and they were worried. In order to remove their worry, and in order that they will cleanse themselves from the Avodah Zarah, Borei Olam wanted to show them that it's only a sheep, it's only an animal, it's a zero. And therefore, since at that time people used to sit on the bed, So Borei Olam wanted that every Jew will see a lot of hours during the day. When they sit on the bed, they will look on the sheep, and the fear from this sheep, which was also beside Avodah Zarah, it was the lack of the Egyptians, will be removed from them. When Am Israel took the sheep on the streets, the Egyptians came to them and they asked them, why you are taking the sheep for? And what you are taking the sheep for? Am Israel answered them, we are taking the sheep in order to slaughter it and to nullify your Avodah Zarah. And Borei Olam is going to bring a plague that all the firstborn are going to be killed from the Egyptians. Says the Midrash, when the Egyptians heard that they are going to nullify their Avodah Zarah, they got very angry. And they wanted to attack the Jews. But a ness happened at that time, that Borei Olam caused that the Egyptians will not have any power to do anything to any Jew. This is the ness that happened on this Shabbat, that no one touched any Jew. Therefore, it's called Shabbat Hagadol. Another ness happened at that time. Am Israel told them, the Egyptians, that all the firstborn are going to die. When the firstborn heard it, they knew that everything that Moshe told and everything that the Jews told them about the plagues came through. So when they heard that they are going to die, they got very frightened. And they went to their parents and they told the parents, go to Paro to send away the Jews immediately, because we are going to die. The parents didn't do it. So says the Midrash that the firstborn started to fight with their parents, and they killed a lot of Egyptians were killed because of this. In other words, in Makat Bechorot was, in fact, two plagues. One before Yetziat, the day of Yetziat Mitzrayim, and one of the night before the night of the day of Yetziat Mitzrayim, and one on the day of Yetziat Mitzrayim. The one of the day of Yetziat Mitzrayim was Makat Bechorot that Borei Olam brought on the firstborn in Egypt. The second plague, if we can call it a plague, was that the Egyptians, the firstborn, killed a lot of Egyptians. They killed their parents. And with this, Mefarshim explains a verse in Sefer Tehillim. The Pasuk says there, "Lemakem Mitzrayim bi bechorehem ki leolam chasdo." What is the meaning "Lemakem Mitzrayim bi bechorehem"? Bi bechorehem in Hebrew means with their firstborn. But the plague was that the firstborn died. What is with the firstborn? Bi bechorehem. So the answer to this, they explain that since the firstborn killed their parents, so this is the meaning, Lemakem Mitzrayim, the Egyptians they got hit, they got killed with the Bechorot, by the Bechorot, by their firstborn, beside what Borei Olam killed all their firstborn. So Lemakem Mitzrayim bi Bechorehem is a double plague. But the question is here, what happened here? That the Egyptians suddenly came to the Am Israel and they asked them, what you are doing with the sheep? Why you are taking the sheep for? The Am Israel used to go with sheep and to slaughter them the whole year. When Am Israel came to Egypt, they came with a lot of sheep because they were shepherds. They said to Paro, we are shepherds. Yosef said to Paro, my brothers are shepherds. So they ate the whole year they ate sheep. So why suddenly they got so angry at the Jews? The answer is because Am Israel answered them, we are going to nullify your Avodah Zarah. But why suddenly they ask this question, Am Israel, why you are taking the sheep for? The answer is because the Egyptians knew that Am Israel is keeping Shabbat. Moshe Rabbeinu established at that time with Paro that one day Am Israel is not working. It's Shabbat. And they knew that the Jews are not making any melacha on Shabbat. And here suddenly they saw that the Jews are dragging a sheep on Shabbat. Therefore they came to ask them about it. And Am Israel answered them. So comes out, and then Borei Olam helped Am Israel that the Egyptians couldn't do anything to them. And this was the Nes. So the whole Nes started with what? That it was Shabbat. Therefore, we call this Shabbat, Shabbat Hagadol. We have to pay attention to another thing, that the two and Maran Bet Yosef, in the beginning of Ilcho, wrote that Shabbat שלפני פסח קוראים אותו Shabbat Hagadol. Usually Maran Bet Yosef and the two, they bring only halachot. So what halacha is being learned from this this sentence that Maran Bet Yosef brought in Shulchan Aruch? Shabbat שלפני פסח קוראים אותו Shabbat Hagadol. Which halacha you are learning from here? The Rav Chida dealt with it, and he says that Maran Bet Yosef wanted to teach us here something. He says that if the minhag is that everyone is blessing his friend on this Shabbat, and one says to the other, Shabbat Shalom umevorach, this Shabbat, Shabbat Hagadol, the way that you will bless your friend will be Shabbat Hagadol mevorach. What's the idea behind? Because this Shabbat a Nes happened. Nes Gadol happened. The Gadol refers to the Nes. Nes Gadol happened. In other words, there is a mitzvah to publicize the nes. This is what Maran Bet Yosef meant when he said, שבת שלפני הפסח קוראים אותו שבת הגדול. To publicize the nes, and that everyone, as the Rav Chida says, will bless his friend, Shabbat Hagadol Mevorach. I want to wish everyone בברכת Shabbat Hagadol Mevorach.